Why are we humans so drawn to the bad news? And what does that mean for our future? In this episode of Terrified Nation, I sit down with journalist and educator Hugo Balta to imagine the world we actually want to live into. And from a peaceful farm in Colombia to reshaping the role of journalism, Hugo shares his vision of a future that's rooted in honesty, harmony, and love. It's the hopeful antidote to fear and anger, and also an invitation for each of us to co-create a future that's worth living. Coming up next, Hugo Balta and his Jedi future.
If you've ever felt fear, doubt, or despair about the future of our country, you're not alone. Terrified Nation is a podcast for those ready to face hard truths with open hearts. Hosted by Debilyn Molineaux, each episode explores how we can move beyond division and build a society rooted in care, courage, and connection. If this resonates with you, hit follow and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Now here's your host, Debilyn Molineaux.
Welcome back to Terrified Nation. I'm your host, Debilyn Molineaux, and we are diving into the big emotions, fear, anger, despair, and how we manage them so we don't get stuck in survival mode. And today is a Jedi Futures episode. Jedi stands for justice, equity, dignity, and inclusion. And we start by asking ourselves, what is it that we really want? Not as consumers, but as humans. And we interview guests who have gone from being afraid and angry or hopeless to become advocates for our nation, to live into the promise of our founders, each one of us dedicating ourselves to a better future. And I like to start each show with a question that we're going to explore together. And today's question is, why are we humans attracted to bad news more than good? And how does that impact what we focus on? Today, we're talking with Hugo Balta about his preferred future. This imagining is an antidote for being angry or afraid, because it gives us something to hope for. Hugo is a communicator, an educator, and a journalist. He is the executive editor of The Fulcrum and a board member of Bridge Alliance Education Fund, which is the parent organization of The Fulcrum. He's the publisher of the Latino News Network, a trainer with the Solution Journalism's Network, and an adjunct professor teaching journalism. He is networked in big time. So welcome to the show, Hugo.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you today.
Now, you have signed up to do this interview, which is part of a larger research project where we imagine the future we actually want for ourselves. And as we go through this interview, I want you to catch yourself to think about what is your preferred future, not what you think is likely or probable. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because we so often limit ourselves to what we think is possible. So to see your preferred future, we're going to do a little time travel in this handy dandy Zoom time machine within your current life today, somewhere 2 to 20 years into the future. So what sounds right for you?
I thought I'll take door number 1, 20 years.
20 years. All right. As we make this deal, we're stepping into the Zoom time machine now. We're setting the dial to 2045. And as we get whisked away into the future, let's take a few deep breaths. So when we arrive in 2045, I would like you to observe yourself there and respond to the questions. So here we are pulling into the 2045 station. Ding! And we get out of our Zoom time machine. And if you could just look around you and tell me, where are we in the world?
Well, 20 years from now, I'll be 75 years old. And where we are in 2045 is actually where I am today, and that is in Medellin, Colombia. It is a country in South America where my wife was born and raised. And it's a country, a community that I find a lot of kinship with as a Peruvian American myself, the son of immigrants from Peru. I'm in Colombia, but um, I would be equally happy to be in Peru or anywhere in Latin America. And the reason for that is it's because growing up in the United States, very much the child of two worlds, two cultures, two languages. Um, I grew up in the East Coast, northern New Jersey, right outside New York City. And one of the things that has always stuck with me, and now in my 50s, and even in earnest at 55, um, one of the things that I've learned is that in the United States, we, and I'm generalizing, we live in a culture that lives to work. And in my experience, outside of the United States, and what I am most familiar with, Latin America, I have come across people, communities that work to live. And that's an important distinction that I learned later on in life
Mhm.
and appreciated more as I crossed up my 40s, certainly my 50s, and the future that I strive to be to live in.
Yeah. Well, and I think so many of us recognize that workaholic nature of the culture here in the United States. And that sounds to me a little bit like we're going into the next question, which is, what will you be most proud of when you're 75?
At 75, I'll be much more proud of legacy. What have I done for the betterment of my family, my friends, my community, my career in communications, journalism, education? I'll be most proud of the impact that I hope I strive to have to people in their chosen careers and helping them as I've been helped and continue to be helped, but have been helped throughout my whole career, mentors and sponsors who figuratively put me on their shoulders and helped me see further and reach higher than I ever could on my own 2 feet. I strive to do the same. And I hope that 20 years from now, as I look back at the present and the past, that that's the type of impact I'm having.
So I just want to point out you went into hope and strive, and this is your preferred future. So you can just make it so.
Mm. Than I have. And I'm very
Exactly.
proud of accomplishing that goal.
Awesome. Well, let's look at like a typical day. How do you spend your time on a typical day?
um, in the future, I'm still engaged. Certainly not as engaged as I am now. My time is consumed in my chosen profession. So I'm knee deep in journalism, knee deep in teaching journalism, and knee deep in helping others in communication through my journalism training. But 20 years from now, while I'm still contributing, it is not at the pace that I'm doing now. It's much more selective. There's much more time in between projects, perhaps. So I'm spending much more time enjoying the present in the sense of spending time with the people that mean the most to me, whether it's having a meal, walking in a park, doing some gardening, hopefully still traveling and having the ability to travel. So in my world, I'm still traveling,
Well, and
still learning.
if I could back you up, just like wake up in the morning and walk us through a day. What are you doing?
I'm living in a small farm Here in Colombia, they call it fincas. And I'm waking up a little bit after the sun is rising, and I'm tending to chickens and maybe some goats, getting ready to make breakfast for my wife and I. Um, really appreciating the crisp air and the sound of the day getting started, not cars or horns, but uh, noise coming from nature itself. Appreciating that crisp cold to know that later on in the afternoon, it'll feel like early summer in the United States. And tending to the animals, almost even as I'm making breakfast, thinking about what lunch will look like, and thinking about taking my wife to having either a cup of coffee after our walk, after we have lunch or early supper, walking into town to one of our favorite coffee shops to have coffee and dessert.
And so that just, by the way, I heard a rooster the minute you said I'm waking up on the farm. I'm like, I'm hearing roosters in my head already. What does your evening look like?
My what?
Your evening, like, so you walk in and you have coffee with your wife.
Well,
What comes after coffee?
sitting down and playing some music, relaxing, having a conversation about the day, what the rest of the week looks like, talking to our children who will be living in the States and wondering and planning when's the next time we'll see them again, whether it's around the holidays or a trip or they come see us. Very much being in the present. And in the present in the sense of very few distractions, right? Because so much of where I am right now is consumed by my mobile phone and the news cycle and a laundry list of responsibilities. The only responsibility I have in the evening is to listen to my wife.
I love that. I'm hearing this real human pace, like natural human pace, unlike what we have mostly in 2025 right now. But this kind of again leads into the very next question, which is how will you feel most of the time when you're 75 living on a farm in Colombia?
I will feel grateful to be where I am. Um, Grateful for where I've been with all of its ebbs and flows, um, peaks and valleys. Excited about what comes next and in harmony with life, an equilibrium that I don't enjoy in 2025.
Mm. And again, I think some telepathy is coming along here because the next question is, as you observe your older self, what can you identify as your 3 to 5, it's a random number here, priority values, or you might say qualities that you live by?
Honesty, honesty, transparency, peace. So at peace with things that perhaps frustrated me in 2025, but the wisdom of 20 years to know that you have to shed what you have no control of. You can't carry it with you. And love for my family, love for self, love for my fellow man. I want to exit harmoniously from this life, which I'm very grateful for, even at 2025. But at 2045, you could see the finish line and excited for what comes next, not intellectually knowing what comes next.
Man, they've made a whole lot of guesses about what's coming next. And yeah, you just nailed it. We don't know. We don't know. It's the next adventure, right? So I would like to have you step back just a little bit more and let's look at the community. And what does the community that surrounds your farm, you mentioned kind of walking to the small village or town. What does the community that supports this future of yours in 2045 need to include or provide for your future to be possible?
A lot of it is reflecting what I am experiencing in 20 years from now, in the sense of I would want the same type of honesty and transparency from my neighbors, from people that I interact with in town, business owners, members of the community that are making decisions for the betterment of individually and holistically for the community. Harmony, people that are living um, with the land and not separate from the land. I think a lot of what we're exposed to now is the other way, unharmonious. And love in that, while I'm not a religious person, I grew up Catholic, um, I certainly draw from that well. And one of the things that have always stuck with me that I try to live my life with is love thy neighbor like you love yourself. And so when I say love, it's wanting people to treat me as they would want to be treated. And that's very subjective, but it's been my experience that that's always a good first step in how to interact with other people.
So the community that supports your future, if I can just kind of recap, it's a place of harmony and it's a place of mutual support and reciprocity. There's a sense of kindness. You didn't say that word, but I'm hearing that kind of as a subtext of people caring for one another.
Yes, very much so. And
Yeah.
looking out for and caring is looking out for one another,
Mhm.
and as a good neighbor, a good Samaritan.
Right. This is actually the last formal question of the interview, and this is where I really hope you invite people to get connected to your work. But what are you doing today, or will you do in the near future, to influence or co-create that community that's going to support your life when you're 75?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think as you were asking the questions and I was um, in the 2045, I about 20 years ago, somewhere, yeah, sounds about right. A colleague of mine, I was going through a traumatic situation. I was laid off from the first time I was laid off from a job that I had worked for 14 years. And anyway, it was a seismic change. And one of the things that he told me was to start at the end and not the beginning and envision what does the future look like and then sort of map out the steps to achieve that future. So this was back in 2009. Um, and that really stuck to me because from that moment on, I started to strive to be the person that I hope to be tomorrow, next year, 5 years, 10 years. And I am proud to say that in being a journalist and being an educator and a communicator, I'm very mindful of, as a journalist, what am I doing for the betterment of the community I'm looking to serve? And solutions journalism is helping me accomplish that.
Mhm.
It's helping me as a journalist and as an editor produce content that's not only informs, but educates, and in doing so, empowers the community to act, to make better decisions for themselves. As an educator, I'm drawing from a wealth of 30 plus years in shaping and training the future of journalism. So as a teacher, I love those moments when students, you could see the light bulbs going off and and they're thinking differently. They're having a moment of pause, and they're thinking that they're thinking for themselves as opposed to be told what to think. And a lot of times they give me instant feedback, and sometimes years go by and they provide me feedback about just how a conversation changed the way they thought and managed their career. And as a communicator, similarly, it's a lot about empowering people to be around media literacy. So much of what
Mhm.
we consume, it comes from social media. And because of algorithms, it reinforces our biases, our perspectives. So it's important for me to say to people, I'm not telling you how to think, and I'm not telling you what's right and what is wrong. My hope is that you have more tools to get to truth. And if the truth is counter to what you believe, at the very least, you're pumping the brakes and it's giving you a moment of pause. That's all I'm looking for is people to just consider the alternatives and not so much to try to convince some other person to come to their side because you're wrong and I'm right. But it's about peeling the onion and humanizing people. People are much more than their titles. Certainly in our polarizing political environment, much more than their political affiliations. And when you strip them from those labels and you get to who they are, you start to see somebody that's very familiar. You're either seeing yourself or you're seeing someone you know. And once you establish that, you might still disagree, but you're engaging in discussion and debate in a very different level that helps you harmonize and collaborate towards working towards a common goal. Because my experience has been, we all want the same things. We just have different ideas of how to get there.
Yeah, you remind me, Ugo, of when I ran for office over 20 years ago. And my question that I would ask people as I was campaigning was, well, what do you want in your community? And it came down to three things, or maybe four. It was like they wanted to feel safe in their homes. They wanted to have a good job and be able to provide for their family. They wanted their kids to have a good education, and they wanted to leave the world a better place. Like it was really simple,
Yeah.
really simple. Um, and I hear a lot of that too in your preferred future, your imagined future on the farm in Colombia, where you are living a human-paced life in harmony with nature and leaving the world a better place, for your community and for your kids.
Very much so. Surrounded by mountains.
Surrounded by mountains. I grew up in Colorado, so I hear the mountain call all the time, all the time. Well, I want to end the formal. Is there anything else you want to invite people to join to find stories on solutions journalism on the Fulcrum? Anything that you want to invite people to look up?
Yeah, and look, I'm always looking to engage people, get feedback. I'm happy when someone gives you that figurative pat on the back and are very generous, complimentary about what they see, whether it's my individual work or through the Fulcrum, through the Latino News Network. But I'm equally interested in people telling me where we're falling short, what we can do better, what's missing that they need from their local media, from a platform, national platform like the Fulcrum. That's really important to me because that helps me grow personally and professionally. And it also helps me better understand people, especially people unlike myself. And when I say unlike myself, it's a myriad of things. It's from where I grew up to where I'm currently living. It's from being married with two kids and to someone who is single and perhaps not heterosexual like I am. So different age groups, etc., gender. I mean, the list goes on. I'm always open and hopeful to learn from others, especially those that are not like me.
Well, thank you for that. And I'd like to go ahead and just end the interview with an invitation for you and for everyone who's listening out there at Terrified Nation. And the invitation is to spend 5 minutes a day, just 5, thinking about your future self, starting with the end in mind, as you noted, Hugo, and feel those feelings of what your preferred future feels like. And include or drop in a little bit of awe and wonder, because neuroscience is showing us that we will subconsciously create that which we think about most. So going back to that question at the top of the show where I said, why are we focused so much on the bad news instead of the good? Think about what that does over time and how we then subconsciously create more bad news. So the choice is ours, and the choice is yours, Hugo, to co-create the future we prefer, like you're already doing. Or we can choose from one of these dystopian options that the conflict profiteers give us.
And I think
go ahead.
And sorry for interrupting. I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to, and like I mentioned, I'm not religious. Perhaps I'm spiritual, and many different religions teach the same things. But you're right in that the universe is listening, and we need to vocalize, sometimes out loud, even if we're the only ones in the room. And as you said, imagine and ask, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And if you listen, because the universe will speak back to you, there are opportunities that have presented themselves. And I firmly believe because I vocalized what it is that I want and need it. Now, you still have to put in the work, of course. No one's going to give you a blank check. But it's very important, as you said, imagine it and it will come true.
So, yes, that you said that beautifully, Hugo. And the last invitation that I have here is just to the audience for Terrified Nation, that if you would like to go through this interview for yourself, journaling prompts or whatever, you can visit JediFutures.org and download a copy of it for yourself. So, Hugo, thank you so much for being here. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
So, in closing today's show, I would like to thank you, the listener, for giving a damn about our nation. And we may be a terrified nation today, but we can do better, and we can save the USA. Join me next time.
That's Terrified Nation, a podcast from American Future. If this episode moved you, please help others find it. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. For early access to new episodes, become a paid subscriber at terrifiednation.com. Join us next time.